Hey guys, it's Cristian
and Kelsey.
Today we are joined by Gold Star mother, Kaki Newgard, and current Hersey teacher and veteran advocate, Mr. Jim Mix. We brought these two special guests today to discuss Veterans Day and what it means to us in the local school areas, and what we are doing to educate our youth about the American heroes.
Mrs. Newgard, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Could you please share with the audience a little background about your son, and for those who don't know, what a Gold Star mother is?
Sure. First of all, my son Will, his lifelong dream was always to join the military. So he went to Chicago Northwestern St. John's Academy. It's a mixture of those names up in Wisconsin for the end of his 8th grade year and the beginning of his freshman year. And he liked it a lot, but he had a new commander in his freshman year who was very tough, and he begged to come back to Hersey for the rest of the school. So he came back here and graduated from Hersey in 2005 and immediately joined up in the Army and went to Fort Benning in Georgia and trained there. And then he was sent to Germany, where he did a lot of things for the Army. He was a excellent marksman, we found out later on. He loved driving. He loved the Humvees. He loved mechanics. He loved all those things. So in the spring of 2006, they deployed to Baghdad, and Will served there for 6 months. And he volunteered around the Christmas season, shortly after he'd come home on leave, to go on a different kind of a mission with not his team. His team was back in the States for Christmas leave. So Will volunteered to be the driver that day to pick up a colonel. And that was the day that his vehicle ran over an IED and he was killed instantly. But we're kind of thankful for that because he was a hero. His gunner had problems with his feet for years after. He's now fine. And his navigator lost both legs, so he was in Walter Reed for a long time. He is okay today. But we feel thankful that Will didn't have any terrible injuries that would have had to be taken care of back home. So he's in God's arms, and he's up there where we all want to be one day. So we're thankful for that. Yeah. And a Gold Star mother just means that you've lost someone in active duty. It could be police, fire, first responders, or anybody in the military.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Mix, thank you for joining us. Could you please share with the audience your role here at Hersey with our military initiatives and what the role in the military has played in your life?
Sure. It's a role that evolved. We didn't have school on Veterans Day. I've been teaching for 27 years for most of my career. And then all of a sudden we're going to have school on Veterans Day. And my father fought in Vietnam in 1970, 71 as part of the 458th, which means he was up and down a river and all that kind of fun stuff. But anyway, when he came home, when my father came home, he had lost some hair and eyebrows and different things from stress and Agent Orange and different things. Worked the night shift for a while. And I went through a hard transition, and he went through a very hard transition coming home. And then as you get older, you learn things. Historically, like it's sometimes it's hard to see yourself as part of just, you're a tiny, tiny grain of sand in a part of history. But my father came home and he was told, don't put your that you served in Vietnam on your job application. And my father was someone who was patriotic, very patriotic. He enlisted, but he was against the war. There's a long history there and all kinds of stuff I could explain. But after all that, and going through all that, and he recently passed. He was a 100% disabled veteran from Agent Orange. He and his unit. He basically went to the VA and they asked him, he got sick, and they said, where were you? And they pointed on a map, and he said, well, I was up and down the river. Well, at the VA, that section is red, which means basically you were hit with chemicals that would, you wouldn't want to be hit with them for one day, let alone for a year straight. But anyway, so for me, it seemed like, wow, we really have to do something on Veterans Day, just because I grew up with some of it and just thinking to myself, let's do this, let's do something. And I wasn't sure what we might roll out on Veterans Day because it was new. It was new to all of us. And it's not that people didn't want to do things at Hersey. It's that we didn't have school on Veterans Day, so we had a room to invent something. Long story short, one of my best friends, his cousin, was part of an organization which eventually became Soldier's Journey Home, which I was one of the founders, and Mr. Hatfield's definitely a big part of it as well. And we built homes. We started a home, and all of a sudden I met Jason Smith. He was being honored at Northwestern University at a football game, and he had lost. He had been, lost both his legs in Afghanistan, and I just said, "Dude, we're gonna do something for you. Our kids, we're gonna figure out something." Yeah. Eventually, we figured out the gingerbread. Let's build gingerbread houses, houses for heroes kind of concepts, and the place just came together. It's just Hersey has a long history of service work.
Yeah.
From Will Kozlowski to the SOS group that Mr. Gunther's running now, you name it. There's just a lot of kindness in this place, so it worked. For the past 6 years, we've done various initiatives, and we'll continue to do so. So let's kind of give you context there, I guess.
And starting with you, Mrs. Newgard, can you please define what Veterans Day means to you?
That's a very special day for me because I get to honor the veterans who have come back well from Iraq and serving with Will, and they that whole unit is remarkable to me because after Will died, I was asked by the Army a fully paid trip to go to Germany to spend a week honoring Will and the other ones they lost, and I was escorted throughout the week by all these guys that had served with Will, so I got to meet his brothers. Yeah. And so to honor them on Veterans Day, I send 3 of them especially that still take care of me. I send them cards and let them know that this is a day to honor them, and we're not going to forget you. And thank you for your service to our country, and that applies to all veterans everywhere. Yeah. It's a very special day.
And how about you, Mr. Mix?
For me, it's so exciting because when I look at the contrast, like when we did the gingerbread and the VVA 311, the Vietnam Veterans of America, Chapter 311 displays come, and they help be a part of things. To have them connected to the community is wonderful because, and last year we honored them at the assembly, to hear those cheers. Put it this way, when my father came back from Vietnam, they wouldn't have let him in the school in their gear, which is just weird. It's strange and wrong to me. But anyway, it feels great to know that there's justice. That means people get what they deserve. And on Veterans Day, to see all the veteran service organizations that have popped up. I would give the Vietnam crew a lot of credit for that. They self-started their own group. Yeah. And a lot of that energy goes towards physically, mentally, and the younger veterans, the post-9/11 veterans, Iraq and Afghanistan, that group, they have tackled mental health better than any other group before. The group that was here last Friday, the Creative Vets, is a group of young veterans using art and music therapy to heal each other. They started their own organization to heal each other. But to see the mental health aspects be addressed, especially that they're doing that, it means a ton to me to see all the patriotism and the love for country, and then to care for each other on both sides. That coming together on Veterans Day, when you think about being loyal to something larger than yourself, that always hits me on Veterans Day. Remember, it's really not even close to all about you. It's what you belong to that's larger than yourself that makes the best parts of your life.
So you've talked about how when you were younger, your father was away, but both of you, kicking it back to when you were our age, how has the meanings of Veterans Day changed from high school you to now?
Want me to go? I'll take that one. It's changed vastly because Veterans Day to me when I was your age was honoring my grandfather and my dad. But I really didn't know exactly what they did. I knew where they fought, but it seemed like it was a distant time, which as a kid it probably was. So we didn't have school the whole time I was growing up. And so it was just thinking of my dad and thinking of my grandfather a couple times during the day, and that's all I knew. So you can see how it's changed for me, being personally involved and wanting to make sure that other people are aware of what all these veterans have done for us.
When I was in high school, it's funny, I'm 50 now. I didn't really, the moment the lightning struck me in the head in terms of what Dad really went through was when our only child, Madison, came home, and I realized he missed that with me. And my mom was alone, and it was very hard. It didn't hit me until I was an adult. And then, In high school, it was my grandmother who just, woke me up a little bit and just said, when your father was in Vietnam, I used to wait every day and just look for somebody coming down the street with a letter about your dad. And I hope you appreciate that. She would just remind me, around that time of year that you should be appreciative. And my grandfather was very appreciative of my father's service because he was a Slovenian immigrant, and there was a lot of trouble that he always loved the idea of being protected.
Yeah.
Of coming from a country where he didn't feel safe to now a place where he felt safe. So it was very important. My grandparents, for 20 years after church, were part of what was called the Casey Wheelers, Donovan's Angels, you name it. And they went after church and they took veterans from the VA hospital at North Chicago to fish, to movies for 20 years. I noticed that when I was in high school on their calendar. They had a big social calendar. They both lived into their 90s, and one of the reasons I think they were so healthy is they were so pro-social, constantly doing things for other people with their friends. That's what they did with their friends.
Yeah.
But I noticed on Sundays, and I have a picture of my grandparents with their friends. It was about 20 people that would go from their church to the VA hospital after church and do social activities with the veterans who had been abandoned. So it's over my years in growing up, like going back to teenage years, I really didn't fully understand the sacrifice and what it meant. And as I get older, I even realized, wow, because my parents got divorced when I was a senior. And man, as you get older, you start to realize there's a story there, and that transition home that wasn't good, part of that is part of that too.
Yeah. And this is more for you, Mr. Mix. Where did your drive and spirit to bring the Veterans Initiative to Hersey come from?
All that. Everything
All that.
I've just said. To me, it just felt right. People ask me, where do you find the energy? I said, I grew up with it. I just, all that. And for me, and also you look at all the tribalism that splits our country apart now, too. I love the idea that, nobody brings people together like veterans. Yeah. Mm-hmm. When you think about that ultimate sacrifice, being a part of things, and that positive patriotism, that sense of belonging to something larger than yourself. Veterans come from all sorts of political spectrums. They have all sorts of skin colors. It doesn't matter. Yeah. They're all a part of that flag, and it's a great thing. Yeah. To me, it transcends a lot of the way that the media is making money on forming their little groups today. I think it's pretty cool to be with people that are together for all the right reasons, brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
So that's like your favorite part of helping out veterans?
Oh boy, my favorite part of the Veterans Initiative that we've started here is doing all the, the list of people, your sponsor here, Mr. Heffield, a big one of them. I've just made a lot of great friends along the way, and just doing it together. And the kids, gosh, you guys are amazing. Just to work with you on meaningful work that's beyond resume. Think about grade point average and, all the stress, it was so cool on Friday when the creative vets were here talking about how they use art and music therapy to overcome all their stuff. And I was thinking how neat it is to have these heroes here. I mean, the guy, Zachary Burgard, who spoke, was a Special Forces Marine. This is a elite human being. Yeah. But he was able to be vulnerable and strong at the same time. And it's really cool for me to see Zach come talk to you guys about, hey, I regrouped, I'm back. Yeah. Now he's all about his family. He's all about art, healing, and helping others heal. To connect that to students, that's definitely one of my favorite parts of this.
Yeah, for sure.
Most of you guys and Hatfield do a really good job of getting Hersey students involved. But how would you say, we compare to other schools that don't do as?
Well, I'd say Hersey, in general, has always had a special history of kindness. Look at the food drive. It's just there. And I say the Veterans Initiative is very special. That the things that we do here, from the bricks to the ginger build to the veterans in the building for a holiday festival. Some people said we should move all the Veteran Initiative away from the holidays. I said, no way, because that good spirit's there, that healing spirit's there. And some of those Vietnam guys have been through some stuff. It's a lot more fun to have gingerbread houses than that other part. So I would say it's a very special thing. And some other schools, a lot of schools, we're actually working on a way to model this. Veterans Village, Illinois, which somehow, some way we're going to get done, would be that transitional community we're working on. A lot of schools, the south suburbs, are asking, my friend Eric Peterson, who was here on Friday, they want to replicate what we're doing.
Yeah.
So it's pretty special.
No wonder.
I feel lucky to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And there's so many good people who make this happen.
And Mrs. Newgard, how do you feel Hersey does with honoring our vets, in your opinion?
I think you've been terrific. I've been reading about it in the last few years, and I'm so proud. And I think Will would be very honored because he loved Hersey. Obviously, he wanted to get back here. So, and it was astonishing to me to see the outpouring of support after he passed away from Hersey kids. The funeral home was just packed with Hersey, and they had made banners, and they had done everything possible just so that we knew that they cared about him and they understood what he did. Yeah. So that was remarkable. From that point on, I've just been very proud of you.
Yeah.
Our District 214, has a very strong NJROTC program. What would you say to the students that are considering enlisting?
I would, from my point of view, for what Will got out of the Army from its concept, I think that's a wonderful program, and I think people should really think about joining it if they're interested one little bit in the military or finding out what it's like. I think that's a wonderful program, and again, as Mr. Mix just said, the brotherhood is not to be slighted. It is just fantastic what they do for each other, and that starts at a very early age, so I would think that program would be wonderful.
Yeah, and this is for both of you. What would you say to the high school students that feel Veterans Day doesn't apply to them?
Oh, boy. I would, first of all, be patient.
Yeah.
And just think, there's a reason you don't understand. There's definitely a there.
Yeah.
Because I think it applies to everybody.
Yeah.
And some of that goes deep. I mean, my grandfather used to talk all the time about Yugoslavia and how in the 90s he predicted that the place was going to turn into a place where there were genocides, and he would tell us all these things. And he would tell us, you're lucky to be safe, and always remember it and appreciate it.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason after church they would go take care of the veterans. So for me, you don't realize that I'm 50, but those seeds that get planted, and then the stuff with my father, it's like, wow, you take it for granted. But you think, a lot of people in the world don't have a safe environment.
Yeah,
they don't feel safe every day to go take their finals and do things like that we take for granted. So because I had such great grandparents and parents, I'd never take it for granted. But I also think to feel that, not to process it intellectually out of a textbook, but to feel that, I think at some point in your life, it'll be there.
Yeah.
There'll be a story. There's a lot of, since post 9/11 and all the sacrifices that crew went through, I think more stories, individual stories, are being told closer to home, like Will's, and all of a sudden it's real. And then I think kids will understand. But I would be patient, not angry.
I think you also have to be personally touched most of the time, like Jimmy and I, because if you're not and you don't know somebody that's been through something, you really don't have perspective on it.
Yeah.
So we hope you can spread that for us.
Yes, thank you.
Veterans Day is a very real and emotional holiday, especially for those affected like both of you.
So we thank you for coming and sharing your knowledge and stories.
Thank you for inviting me.
Hey, thanks for having us.
No problem.